over for like the 50 millionth time now. Stuff keeps going wrong. Like, I cannot talk to save my life in this video for some reason. My camera keeps going out of focus and stopping on me in the middle of me talking.
Hey guys, it's time for another creepy video. And for tonight's creepy video, I am going to be talking about some recent paranormal experiences that I have had. And I am aware that I have been making quite a few of these experience videos recently, and that's mainly because I have kind of been experiencing a lot lately, and I'm not 100% sure why, but I've always kind of been a spiritual person, and I've always been told by several people that I'm gifted when it comes to this sort of thing. Experience paranormal stuff pretty much on a daily basis. Some stuff's more severe and out there than other things are, and that's the reason why I don't like mention everything that happens to me every single day. And I feel like the more that you talk about paranormal stuff that's happening to you every day, like the less people are gonna believe it. These are some things that have happened to me over, you know, a span of a couple of months. It hasn't happened in a week or a day. It's all kind of happened over a period of time, and this is stuff that I've been kind of documenting and keeping in my journal to tell you guys. I always said that if I had any more paranormal experiences, or I was going to update you guys and talk about it in a video, so that's exactly what I'm doing. And I would also like to put a little disclaimer at the beginning of this video before I get started that anything that I talk about that has to do with the paranormal that I say that I've experienced, I am not making any of it up. Like, I am being 100% truthful with you guys. I would not lie about anything. Like, I am a true believer in the paranormal. I am not a skeptic, and I don't want to do anything to add fuel to the skeptic's fire in their mind of not believing in ghosts. It all just comes down to whether you believe me or not. So, take it as you will, but I am telling you the 100% real, authentic truth. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. So, on this particular day, my parents were off at work, and I was home alone, and I went to go take a shower. And right above my shower, I have this like really old-timey light fixture, because this house was built like back in the 80s, and it used to be my great-grandparents' home before it was ours. So some of the stuff has not been updated for quite a while, and it's actually kind of embarrassing, but our light fixture is really old. And this could be paranormal related, or it could be something completely rational, like it could have a rational explanation, but I just thought that it was kind of strange. This light fixture has like a little pull string. That's how old it is. We never really had any problems out of it up until this point. On this day, you know, it was sunshiny, the weather was perfect, like it was not storming, it was not raining, it was not windy outside, you know, like the weather was completely fine. So I'm in the middle of taking a shower, and all of a sudden I glance up and I notice that the light is flickering, and I'm thinking, oh well, you know, the light bulb's getting ready to blow, I'll just have my dad change it whenever he gets home, it'll be fine, whatever. So I continue on with the rest of my shower, and I notice that it's doing it again, a second time. And I'm like, you know, I'm still not really thinking anything of it. I'm just like, this light bulb's literally getting ready to blow while I'm in the shower. Until it happened a third time. At this point, I'm starting to get a little freaked out because, number one, I'm home alone. Number two, I'm in the shower. And number three, that just didn't seem normal. If the light bulb was getting ready to blow, you would think that by the third time that it flickered, it would have blown out already. It hadn't blown out. Like, the light was still on, but yet it flickered 3 times. So that was strange to me, and I had it in the back of my head like all day long after that. Like, I'm all about keeping it real on my channel. I would like to mention that, you know, we do live in an area where the power tends to go out a little bit more often than it does in other places. And that is because we live around a lot of trees, you know, a lot of wooded areas. And sometimes the trees can fall on the lines, you know, and knock the power out. I don't believe that that was the case. As I said before, the weather was perfect. There was no reason for the lights to be flickering in the first place. So everything was normal up until the point my parents got home. and they were sitting at our dining room table and they were eating, and they had the light on above the table on the ceiling fan. And I'm sitting over on the couch, and I have a lamp on the nightstand sitting next to me that's on. So we're just all sitting there talking, you know, eating dinner, whatever. And I kind of had forgot about the light flickering in the bathroom, and I hadn't mentioned it to my parents or anything. And all of a sudden, the light just flickers. It flickers on the lamp, it flickers above my parents where they were eating. I literally thought at this point that the power was getting ready to go out, and it happened a second time. And I can't remember if it happened a third time when I was in the living room or not, because it was kind of a while back there, like it was a few months ago, so it's kind of hard for me to like remember that far back. But I do know that it happened in the living room. It happened 3 times. And I do believe, now that I think about it, I do believe it did happen a third time in the living room as well. And that's kind of what freaked me out, because I've always heard paranormal stuff that happens in counts of 3 usually has to do with something demonic. So I thought that that was a little freaky. But nothing really happened after that, and as I said before, it could have like a completely rational explanation to it, or it could be indeed something that's paranormal related. I don't really know, but I just thought that it was strange. And so the second experience that I had was whenever I was at this store called Wildflowers with my dad. And this store is a Wiccan store. And my dad's always liked going there because he's always been into that kind of thing. And I have too. So I've always liked going there and like looking around in the store with him. So on this day we were just spending time together and we were looking around in the store and everything like that. So my dad has taken me there ever since I was a little kid. And he's always been friends with the people who own the store. And a few months before this had happened, he had just found out that the guy that he was friends with that owned the store ended up passing away. We were walking around and just like looking at everything that they had, and I walked up in this one little area and I was just standing there because my dad was looking at something that was like right in front of me, so I was standing there trying to get out of his way. And all of a sudden I just have like this big ball of energy just hit me right there. And I can't really describe how that feels. It just kind of felt like a jolt of electricity just kind of like came into me, or like a big rush of air just hit me all of a sudden. It was kind of like that, but I could feel like the jolts, the tingling sensation of it after it had like hit me and like entered my body or whatever. And I was standing there and I was kind of like getting like dizzy. I remember telling my dad, you know, I feel weird, like I can sense like energy right here, like I had a big ball of energy just hit me all of a sudden. And I wasn't really thinking of his friend who had just recently passed away that owned the store. You know, that hadn't even crossed my mind until that point. That energy was like following me around in the store that entire time I was there. It wasn't like anything that I felt threatened by. It did kind of freak me out a little bit, I will admit, because that's never really happened to me before. But if you've ever experienced that, then you know what I'm talking about. It's basically like a spirit came and just kind of like entered my body. I could feel like anxiety in my chest right here. And I brought it up to my dad and we were talking about it, and he's like, you don't think that it could be my friend who just recently passed away? Because he used to live here. Like, the store where it is, their house is actually built onto the store as well. He used to live in that same building where the store is at. So I was like a little bit intrigued by that. Like, that really caught my interest. Like, I had no reason to feel like anxiety before that, and I know some people will be like, well, maybe it was just anxiety. No, I didn't have any reason to feel anxiety. Like, I was calm, I was completely chill, I was enjoying my day with my dad, and then it just hit me out of nowhere. And they didn't have an air conditioner on or anything like that, I don't believe. I believe this was actually, I think that it was back in the winter. I don't know. It was a couple months ago, so as I said before, it's kind of hard for me to remember that far back. There were no doors next to me. I was standing right in the middle of the path walking way to get through the aisle. as far as I'm aware, there was like nothing around me that could have caused that. The feeling kind of left as we drove away, but when I was there, the feeling stayed with me. So me and my dad kind of believed that that was his friend who... So this next incident happened right around the time that I filmed my nightmares video. I made a video talking about the nightmares that I had been having. I had a lot of nightmares within like a span of 2 weeks. It all kind of happened after I got my antique doll from the antique store, Sybil, who is sitting right there. And you know, I don't know if it was related to her or, you know, if it was something else or if it was just regular old nightmares. I think that I struggled with my insomnia that night, and I had finally fell asleep at around like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was just drifting off into that deep sleep. And I wasn't dreaming of anything up until that point, when all of a sudden I just started hearing my name being called out, and I knew whose voice it was. It was my dad's voice. He just kept going, "Melanie, Melanie, Melanie." Whenever he's coming to wake me up, this is where I usually have a lock on my door. He usually like knocks on the door and says my name several times. And I thought that that's what it was because it woke me up dead out of my sleep. Like I could still hear it like right after I woke up, and it startled me. Like whenever I first woke up, I jumped. I was kind of in that state whenever you wake up from a nap and you don't really know what's going on. Like it was kind of like that. So I was still kind of half asleep, but whatever the case, I heard this in my dream. I heard this in my sleeping, and it woke me up. I could still hear it like after I had woken up, and I was like putting my pants on and I was trying to get to the door, and I was like, "What?" I kept saying, "What?" I opened up the door thinking that my dad was going to be on the other side, and you know that he was trying to get me up for whatever reason. He wasn't there. Like I walked all the way in my living room and my parents were both dead asleep. And like he was not there at all, but it was my dad's voice. Like I know my dad's voice. It was his voice. I don't know why, but that really gave me like the heebie-jeebies. Like it scared the crap out of me, because when you have a nightmare like that, hear someone's voice clear as day saying your name, you know, and it wakes you up from your sleep and you can still hear it after you're awake. Like that's just terrifying to me. I don't know why. And this happened after I made that nightmares video, and if you guys haven't seen that video, I'll leave it in the description so you guys can go check that out. Experience happened, I want to say a few years ago, and I just forgot to mention it in a video for whatever reason. I believe that this was right around the time that I seen that white figure standing on the side of the road. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I made a whole video on that experience, I believe. So, you know, all of those videos are always listed down below so you guys can go check them out. So it was summer and it was really nice outside. So I was sitting out on the porch and I was talking to Tiffany on the phone. And, you know, it's really quiet outside. It's starting to get dark, and I don't know why. In the summertime, I just really like to go outside and sit on the porch when it's dark just to watch like the lightning bugs, and you know, I like to like reflect and sometimes listen to music and stuff like that. My grandparents, I believe that they were up at their cabin at this point in time, so they weren't home, but they live like right next door to me. I'm sitting there talking to Tiffany, and all of a sudden I hear like a bonk. It's like that. But it's on like the side of my papa's old building. So I kind of like look over. And when I look over, I see like a little white orb floating up, and then it just disappears into the sky. And then I hear this voice, which I've heard in a few EVPs, and it sounds like the same voice. I don't know if it's the same person or whatnot. I don't know. But it was a man's voice, and he goes, "It's me." And I'm starting to get a little freaked out at this point. I'm getting ready to like walk inside my house because I'm like freaking out. And my parents were inside. I kind of glanced up. In my grandparents' house, on their little patio, they have like these windows to where you can see in. And it's completely dark in that area. But in the darkness, I see this shadow that's a little bit darker than the dark that's in there, if that makes any sense. And it's like walking back and forth in their patio area in their house. And I know that they're not home. You know, and I know that it's not a person, because if it was a person, you'd be able to see like their body, you'd be able to see their clothes, because you can see certain details in their patio room. This figure did not have any details like that. It was just kind of like a shadow, but you could see through it. So it was like a dark shadow that was transparent that you could see through. So that freaked me out, and I didn't experience anything after that, I don't think. So these next two experiences happened while I was playing with the spirit board. And I know a lot of people that are watching this video are probably like, what? You've played with an Ouija board before? Yes, I have. I've actually used one several times, but I'm very safe and careful with them whenever I do play with them. I would like to say that. I do believe that they are dangerous, and I never play with them alone. I always play with them with my dad or someone else. Like, I never play with them alone just because. Anyways, it was right after me and my parents had first got our Ouija board. We were sitting there asking it questions, and I believe that we were talking to spirits that used to reside at the old haunted house that I used to work at. We were trying to contact those spirits from there because that place is supposed to be haunted. So, the haunted barn. We're sitting there talking to what we believed to be the spirits. You know, they were friendly spirits. Like, there didn't seem to be anything off with them. I know I already mentioned this part in a video where I talked to the little boy named David, which was a spirit that used to be at the haunted barn whenever I worked there, coming through the Ouija board and putting his name. And I mentioned that in my first paranormal experiences video. But this was right around that same time, like when we were talking to them. So like as we're sitting there talking to them, like we didn't have many lights on at the time. I believe we had like a candle on the table. Yeah, I just believe that we had like a candle on the table and that was it. Like we didn't have any other lights on. It was dark, but we had enough light to where we could see the board. So we're sitting there talking to those spirits. All of a sudden it just kind of like darkens up around the table. Like I can see out of the corner of my eyes, like around the table, it's just starting to like darken up. And like darker than what it was before. Around the table I could see like figures, like shadow figures. They were like holding hands, and they were like all around the table around me, my mom, and my dad. I don't think that my parents could see them, but I seen them. And they were like standing around the table as we were talking to these spirits on the board. And it was a little freaky my first couple of times playing with the board, you know, experiencing something like that, because you don't really know what you're talking to. But I truly believe in my heart that the spirits that I were talking to were that of good spirits. Like they weren't evil or mean or demonic or anything like that. I truly believe that they were who they said they were. It was still kind of freaky. Another time we were talking with my grandmother who had passed away, and we're sitting there asking her questions, and we're like, if this is really you, can you give us a sign that you're here? So my niece has a doll sitting on the table that's directly behind us, and yes, I did have 8 cats at the time we were using this board, but none of them were around that table whenever this happened. Like, we asked her to give us a sign, and out of nowhere, Harmony's doll just falls all of a sudden. And I mean, it fell, and when it fell hard. And you could like hear it, like it was a really loud thump. And it made me, my mom, and my dad jump. It scared all of us. And it was right after we had asked her to give us a sign that she was there, if it was really her. So, I mean, that didn't really freak me out. It just kind of startled me whenever the doll fell, because I wasn't expecting it. But, that didn't really freak me out because I knew in my heart that it was her. And talking to loved ones that have passed on is kind of like a calming feeling. Like, it kind of brings you a sense of relief and comfort. Okay, so I've got to hurry up because my batteries are getting ready to die, and for some reason my camera keeps shutting off. I think that it's getting overheated. These next two and the last two experiences that I've had recently happened more recent than the other ones had. And when I say recent, they happened about in a span of like a week or 2 weeks ago. So the first experience happened this past Friday actually, and it was before my sister and my niece had come up to my house as they usually do on Fridays. My mom was in the living room and my dad had went to the store to go get something. I was sitting on my bed. I just cleaned my room up for the day, and I was just sitting there being lazy and trying to take a breath before I got started with my day. So I kind of like glance behind me, and I see this like shadow figure sitting on the bed directly behind me, and it was like a pitch dark shadow figure, and it kind of reminded me of the dark shadow figure that I see all the time. And sometimes I see that whenever, you know, something bad is getting ready to happen. And on this day, like directly after I seen that, our power had went out, and I was just having like a really bad day. It was kind of freaky, but I didn't see anything else after that had happened. But that was before I came down with the sickness of whatever I had, and an omen of bad things that were about to come. I'm not really sure, but either way it was really freaky. So the second paranormal experience was kind of small. It was, I can't recall which day exactly that it was, but I know that it was like the past week or so. I was in my bathroom and I was brushing my teeth, and I had the door open, and I believe I was getting ready to go to bed. And I kind of like glanced out of the corner of my eye, and in the doorway I seen a big, I mean it was huge, it was a big white orb. That was the first time I had ever seen an orb that was that big, so I just thought that it was kind of interesting. Those were all the paranormal experiences that I have had recently. I have had more stuff happen with my cat, who just recently passed away, but I'm going to put that in a separate video just because I don't want it to get too long, whatever. And I kind of like to keep that stuff separate. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big ol' thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and become a morbid maniac. Also, leave me a comment and let me know what you think of these experiences. You know, what are some of your more recent paranormal experiences that you have encountered? Leave me a comment and let me know. And I will see you guys in my next video.